Welcome back. It's the Field of 68 NBA Draft 2023 Prospect Profiles. I'm Greg Waddell. I am joined by the lovely Rob Doster. And today we're talking about a National Player of the Year, Rob. It's not every video we get to talk about a National Player of the Year. That would be Kentucky's own Oscar Tshiebwe. The numbers are gaudy at the college level. 16 points last season, 14 rebounds, even higher, 17 and 15 as a junior at Kentucky when he did win National Player of the Year. The guy was one of the most productive statistical big men that we have seen in the last decade. Does his game translate to the next level?
What's the nicest way to say not a chance? What's the most friendly way to be able to say that?
Oh, probably not a chance.
Yeah. So there's two major problems that I have with Tshiebwe as a prospect and as a player, and I think both of them are reasons why Kentucky struggled against St. Peter's in the first round of the tournament in 2022 and did not quite live up to the expectations that it had in the preseason this past season. The first is the shooting, right? Like, it just never came around. He's just never going to be a floor spacer. It's just it's not something that he does well. We did a recording for Adama Sanogo earlier on today, and one thing that I think you saw Adama develop over the course of his college career was the ability to step out and make threes, the ability to space the floor. That didn't happen with Tshiebwe. The other issue that I have with him is that he is a minus defender in ball screens. Part of why Kentucky struggled the way that they did this past season was that teams kind of figured out the best way to go about attacking this group was to put Oscar Tshiebwe in ball screens and make him try to make a decision. Make him have to figure out, am I playing drop coverage? Am I hedging hard? Am I going to have to switch? Am I going to have to do this? Am I going to have to do that? He was consistently out of position. I don't think he's someone that necessarily is great when it comes to sitting in a stance. He's not exactly a rim protector. He is one of the best that we've ever seen at the college level of the things that he does well. He is a fucking ridiculous rebounder. Like, if that ball is anywhere within like the radius of his hands, he grabs it and you're not getting it out of his hands. They're like suction cups, right? He is somebody that allowed you to send one less rebounder to the defensive glass, knowing that all he had to do was get it, an outlet pass, and all of a sudden you got a 3-on-2 fast break. He's someone that allowed you to prevent transition because he could be a one-man wrecking crew on the offensive glass. He's so big and he's so strong that he just kind of walks wherever he wants to go, and there's not shit that you could do about it, right? His flaws to me are too much to make up for that at the NBA level, where if you are a big man, you have to be able to at least create some resistance in ball screens. You're never going to like stop Chris Paul or Devin Booker or De'Aaron Fox or any of these guys in ball screens every time. You got to make it like a little bit difficult. It can't just be like a 1-on-0 in practice kind of a drill, right? And that's my concern. You can't shoot. You're not a rim protector. You're not great in ball screens. Like, if you're just a rebounder, nobody cares about rebounding in the NBA. Like, no one goes to the offensive glass anyways. So what's your role there? What's your job? What are you going to do to keep yourself on an NBA roster? And I don't see it.
Yeah, it's really interesting that we're doing this. You mentioned this already, but we're doing this right after the Adama Sanogo video, and we called it out. Like, Sanogo pretty much across the board added to his game every single season, and you could see a very linear progression of that. Whereas Oscar Tshiebwe, it's like he had a pretty impressive freshman year at West Virginia, and then he only played 10 games as a sophomore, but all the numbers were down. And then he transfers to Kentucky. He's the National Player of the Year. And then he comes back to Kentucky and by all accounts had a worse season than he did the year before. I just don't know. I think he has one translatable skill to the league. And I do like guys. It's almost like elite shooters, right? You look at him and you're like, hey, we don't know if he can do anything else, but we know he's an NBA level shooter. That typically sticks in some form, at least in pre-draft conversations. And I don't know how valuable it is when that skill is just rebounding in today's era in the NBA, but I do know like he's probably a top 15, 20 rebounder on the planet right now, right? Like, are there 20 guys in the NBA who are better rebounders than Oscar Tshiebwe?
No, probably not. And if you were going to make the argument for him getting to the NBA level, it would be something like, we mentioned this with Adama as well. It would be something like Kevon Looney, right? A guy that has kind of come in and accepted that the reason why I'm here, the reason I'm getting a contract is because there's all these dudes around me that can get buckets. I got all these Hall of Famers around me. What I need to do is be a defender and be a rebounder. Be someone that makes it so that the other team doesn't score as often, and somebody that ends possessions and keeps possessions alive because I'm able to get to the glass. Tshiebwe can absolutely, without question, do the latter. He can absolutely be somebody that goes out there and averages 13 rebounds a game at the NBA level. I don't think anybody would question that, right? I think he could have done it last year. I think he could have done it his National Player of the Year season. I think he could have done that like as an 18-year-old, right? Like rebounders are rebounders, and that translates. The issue with Tshiebwe is like he has to learn how to be a defensive weapon, right? He has to learn how to be a guy that can guard ball screens. He has to learn how to be someone that, if he's forced to, can switch out and guard somebody else. He's not really like a lob threat, which Looney is not great, but like at least that's there a little bit, right? He's not someone that's going to step out and knock down a three. He could barely knock down a jump shot. So when you take all of those things into consideration, and the fact that like a dude doing the job that Kevon Looney does really only works on like how many teams in the NBA. How many teams have enough offense that they could just have a dude that doesn't impact? Like maybe it works on the Suns. Maybe the Suns say, okay, you know what? In the second round for like an NBA minimum, we're going to bring in Oscar Tshiebwe, and he's just going to go out there and get a bunch of rebounds. He can't be any worse than Jock Landale as a backup 5 to DeAndre Ayton, right? Maybe that makes sense, but I still think that there are like if you're in that situation and you're the Suns, are you going to take the guy that can't guard, that can't shoot, and that can get a lot of rebounds, or the guy that's going to get like 80% of the same amount of rebounds that can also shoot, that can also be a defensive weapon, right? Like that's the big thing that you got to ask is like, who are you taking him over? I don't see it for Tshiebwe in the NBA. Now, if you want to put him on a two-way, if you want to let him go to the G League, if you want to let him get some, like, I don't mean to call out John Calipari, but some really good coaching and development on that end of the floor, then maybe we can have that conversation. But like, I don't think that it's a coincidence that all of these Kentucky players, all of these Kentucky guards, like end up getting to the NBA. And it's like, holy shit, look at Devin Booker. Look at Tyrese Maxey. Look at Tyler Hero. Look at all of these dudes make this leap, right? So maybe that's what happened with Tshiebwe. If I'm an NBA organization, to me, he is someone that I'm trying to get on a two-way or a G League deal if he goes undrafted. Probably I would tend to lean towards a G League deal. But yeah, even then, like, you're probably getting a decent amount of money if you're Tshiebwe, especially if you can find a way to get on a two-way.
Yeah, if he ends up in the G League, I just want to go on record right now. I think he could be historically great as far as G League production goes. Like, I think the dude could average like 20 rebounds a game at the G League if he's just a starting center on a G League team. Game in,
you know that reminds me of? You know what movie I watched last night? Our partner for today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water, or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's field 68 FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks.
No.
I watched Bull Durham. Have you ever seen Bull Durham?
I have seen Bull Durham.
So Kevin Costner's character is in there, and they're talking about how he has a chance to break the minor league career home run record, right? Like, is that really a record that you want? Is that really like? Do you really want to be the best rebounder ever in the G League? I don't know.
It's something he could hang his hat on. I would bet on it at this point. Also, Nick Stauskas averaged like 30 points a game in the G League. Just let's not do any Nick Stauskas erasure here anymore. But no, I do think there's a small window where Oscar Tshiebwe works in the NBA. And you're right. All the points about like he's a pretty horrible defender in space. There's not a ton to love offensively. He's not really a lob catcher. Like all of that's true. I'm not saying that's not true. But I do think like if he somehow finds himself on a team with a really dynamic point guard that is like not necessarily an NBA championship level team, because I don't think Oscar Tshiebwe would play minutes on an NBA championship level team, but maybe like a playoff level team that's trying to take the next jump and just needs a gritty guy who's going to go out there and bust his ass at the 5 and can catch and finish off of a dynamic point guard and just play the dunker spot. Like, I think that could maybe work. I see shades of like a way, way, way less athletic Clint Capella here. Like, if he was the thing about Capella, big,
but Capella could be like a rim protector, and he's someone that could defend in ball screen. So, which is why, like, if you have to teach him that, like, I don't think that he's ever been coached up the way that you need to be coached up in guarding ball screens. Like, you go watch the film. It's just he's constantly like one step out of position, one step late getting to a certain spot, and this is why like I'm not ready to write him off and just say like this guy is never going to play in the NBA, because that's something you could be taught. That's not like the inability to grasp those concepts. You got to be taught those concepts. You have to learn that stuff. And I don't know what, without being in those practices, without being in those film rooms, we don't know what has been taught, what wasn't taught, what went over his head, what maybe like he didn't have the chance to learn, maybe what did, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that he is a guy. I'm not putting him on my NBA roster in the 2023-24 season, not in the preseason. If you get him in your organization, you trust your development staff at the G League level. You trust the guys that are gonna be able to coach him up down there. If you could get him to a point where he becomes like a plus defender in ball screens, even if he's not like a rim protector, just a guy that can get in the way, maybe take a charge here or there, I think the rebounding is good enough that is something where we can have a conversation, especially if he gets to the point where like you can make an open 3. Right now, like you don't even want him to shoot an open 3. You kind of don't even want him shooting free throws. So
Colin Cowherd level spin zone here. If everything you say is true about how he hasn't been taught many things, we don't know how much he's been coached up, we just don't see it. He won National Player of the Year despite all of that. Like, that's wildly impressive. If all of that's true, if we're saying like he essentially got nothing maximizing any of his skill sets, he wasn't coached up, he was the National Player of the Year less than 24 months ago. Like, and there's got to be some.
I'm gonna spin zone your spin zone. He won National Player of the Year when the other options were Johnny Davis and Keegan Murray. Let's keep it moving.
I mean, that's just harsh to the Big Ten, but fair.
Johnny Davis might be the worst lottery pick of the last decade. All right, like,
hey, Keegan Murray was my National Player of the Year that year, for the record.
Was he Terrence Oglesby National Player of the Year? No,
no, he was not. All right, you said you wouldn't sign him, you wouldn't play him on your NBA team at all. So you're taking Jock Landale over Oscar Tshiebwe
right now? Yeah. In a year, if I get him in my organization, like we coach up that defense, then we're gonna have to have a different conversation. At least Landale like is big. He understands like where he needs to be in the way at certain points, even if he's not a great defender. And like the dude's a really efficient offensive weapon. Like he was a stud at St. Mary's. Let's not sleep on St. Mary's.
He was.
Let's not sleep on Randy Bennett.
I don't mean to disrespect Jock by any means. I just like,
and his name is Jock.
I like making Rob Doster play NBA GM whenever I get the opportunity. So there you have it, folks.
I could be an NBA GM. Look, like the Clippers hired the guy from Sports Illustrated. The Raptors hired Luke Wynn. Like, come on, I could do it. I could be an
see
NBA
the headlines
GM.
out.
I can't be worse than a lot of these guys.
Field of 68 founder hired miraculously to lead Minnesota Timberwolves to NBA title. We'll see how that goes.
I don't know if I can lead him to a title. I could definitely lead him to the lottery, though.
That's very true. All right, Rob. Pleasure doing all these videos with you. If you enjoyed any of these videos, or if you hated them and you just want to keep hate watching us, you can do so at our live NBA mock draft Thursday, June 15th at 7 p.m. We're bringing in some of the best in the biz to tell Jeff and Rob how wrong they are about their NBA draft selections. We'll go through every single pick in the first round. It'll be a bunch of fun. If you like this video specifically, you can watch almost 100 more for every single important prospect that's entering the NBA draft this year. You can find all of that on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. Click subscribe for us while you are over there. All right, for Rob, my name is Greg Waddell. We will see you next time here on the Field of 68.
Thank you for watching the Field of 68. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, hit that like button, share this link with your friends, or check out the description for some other places that you can consume Field of 68 content.